But we continue right now with a young man who is striving to make a difference in underserved communities and also the prison population. We welcome back community activist Stacey Young. His latest project is called Socrates, and it is saving our communities at risk through educational services. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Maggie. I'm glad to be here.
Well, let's talk about where you got the idea for this.
Well, I had thought about doing a nonprofit years ago and didn't really know how I was going to implement it. And actually what happened was I was in one of my classes, and in my college classes, I often talk about vulnerability and why it's important.
Yeah, we should also say Stacey is also a professor.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So as I was talking about vulnerability in one of my classes, I don't know why, but in all the years that I had done the exercise, I had never shared this with my students. But one day I decided to tell them about my educational challenges. And I told them how difficult it was for me. I had failed 6 out of 7 classes my sophomore year of high school, graduated in the bottom 8% of my class, and struggled at several colleges before I was able to connect with the educational process. And then for some reason, I decided that, to share that. And then after the class, I had several students come up to me and say, thanks for sharing your story because, that's my story and you now give me hope. So that was probably the moment that I said, you know what, it's probably time to start working on my nonprofit because there's a lot of folks that are like me that need some assistance and I want to do something more. So I started working on my nonprofit.
Yeah. Talk about I know you just went over it briefly about how you started out, but it was really a struggle, even suggesting the fact that maybe you just ought to drop out of school and find something else to do.
Yeah.
Which was not a good suggestion to anybody.
No, not at all. And it's still amazing to me that I would have a principal in a parent-teacher conference say, Stacey's failed 6 out of 7 classes. He's not doing well, and he should go get a job. So there wasn't any comments or suggestions in terms of what can we do to fix this, what's going on. It was, let's show him the door. But fortunately, my mom gave me a choice, and it probably was the best thing that she could have ever done for me because she put the accountability and responsibility of my own actions in my own hands at that young time in my life. And fortunately, I made the right decision and stayed in school. But just imagine if I had decided to walk away at that moment. It's just unfortunate. So I don't want other folks to have to feel that. And if they're not connecting with the process where they are right now, I'm trying to give them an alternative because college isn't necessarily for everyone. And everyone isn't always good at test taking or the traditional process of learning, which is very passive.
Yeah. One of the other things also is we just talked about education and the need for people to really realize that not everyone is going to be educated in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's important because one of the things that I like to bring in my classroom is a lot of different types of learning. So, obviously there's a lot of lecture and there's PowerPoint slides so folks can see things. But the biggest thing for me in my classroom is I want it to be very interactive. So I want my students to engage in the process. I call on my students by name to make it a very personal approach. And that allows me to connect with my students in a deeper way and build those relationships. But the biggest thing that I think that makes a difference in my classroom and what I bring to the nonprofit as well is I don't require my students to take notes because I think if my students are taking notes, I know, if my students are taking notes about something I was talking about 5 to 10 seconds ago, they're not focused in the moment and they're not actively learning. So they're trying to play catch up versus being able to participate in the process. So I create an environment not only with my classroom, but also with Socrates, that it's all about a process of providing information, but also doing a question and answer exchange, which actually leads to the name of my organization. So the reason that I gave my organization a sort of tongue-in-cheek name of Socrates versus Socrates is because Socrates was a Greek philosopher, did a lot of teaching through question and answer, and that reflects my style of teaching as well.
Speaking of your style of teaching, you have gone in and started working within the prison population also. And we have online with us Kristen Kane, and introduce her and talk about what's going on there.
Well, I think the first thing that I'll say is Kristen Kane is sort of like my nonprofit hero because I've been trying to make headway into several organizations, just even to get a return phone call to pitch the type of things that I'm doing and the services that I'm looking to deliver, and really couldn't make a lot of inroads in any of these organizations. But then I had a conversation with Miss Kane, and it was interesting because I went in there and I told her that I wanted to volunteer, and she goes, well, I want to get you hooked up with this other organization. I said, well, no, I don't want to work with another organization. I want to bring in my own organization. I'm trying to build something new. And, without any reservation, she said, okay, well, I can work with you. Let me send it through the channels and let's see if we can get this approved. And fortunately, again, my nonprofit hero for my organization, Ms. Kane allowed us to get approved and come in and work with the inmate population.
All right. Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Talk about Stacy and what impact he's made already for your prison population.
I mean, I don't know if he mentioned, but the first time he came in, he had a standing ovation from the inmates. I think it's just incredible the impact he's having, because we have people in here who've never really had somebody to talk to them and to motivate them and to inspire them. He's doing life skills, intro to business, soft skills training, and just things that these inmates just weren't aware of, and basic skills that they needed and need to get out and to even be in the jail and be more productive in here and when they get out. Every inmate I've spoken to just cannot say enough about how much what he has said to them made a difference, that they can relate to him, that the things he teaches and talks about is stuff that they've experienced, that they know about. So it's just very impressive what a difference. He's been here, since September, and he's made a huge impact and difference on so many inmates that are in our housing unit.
And one of the things that's so important, so many of them lack education and understanding the importance of it. Am I right, Kristen?
Yeah, a lot of them, even when they did go to school, they weren't there half the time. Mm-hmm. They didn't have families to support them and encourage them and keep them in school. I think one of the things Mr. Young talks about is having a mother that encouraged and supported him. Some of these inmates have no one. They have no one that when they don't show up for school, there's no one there to say, why aren't you going to school? No one meeting the teachers, no one trying to encourage them in any way. So just knowing that somebody like him can come in and talk to them about his situation, what he went through, and encourage them and let them know there are people out there that will support and help and assist you. As you all know, the jail population is often forgotten, but they're coming out, and to help them while they're in here can make a huge difference on who they are when they get out.
And also help them stay out.
Right, exactly. And that's one of our biggest issues is we have a revolving door, and if we can get them, whether they're in our GED, our ESL, our Intro to Business classes, whatever they're in, if we can help them and connect them with resources on the inside and on the outside that they can utilize, it makes so much more opportunity for them when they get out.
Stacy?
Yeah, it's just been an incredible experience. I never thought, first and foremost, that I would be inside of a jail teaching. And I never even considered that as an option when I started this organization. But fortunately, my friends who read my book, It's a Crazy World, learned from it. What they did was they told me that this would be good motivation and good inspiration for folks that are in the jail population. And they said, you know what, go take a look. And like I do with a lot of things, I prayed on it. And I said, I don't know if I was ready to do this, but I'll go in. But if you give me just a moment, I just want to tell you, sort of a quick story, and it's very interesting. And Ms. Kane will probably remember this as well. So the first time that I went in, Ms. Kane was walking me around the jail, and it's a different experience if you.
In what jail?
In the Arlington County Detention Facility in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
And it's a different experience if you've never been in a jail. So I wasn't.
I'm from Leavenworth, Kansas. I've been in jails.
Well, I wasn't ready for to walk around the jail that day. Mm-hmm. So we started walking around, and then after she introduced me to one of the other coordinators there, she said, "Would you like to go see a housing unit?" And I said, "Okay, well, let's go ahead and do it." So we went downstairs, and I'm thinking we're just going to look in from the outside. The next thing I know, she swipes a card, and we're like in between doors, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then she swipes another door, and I was like, oh, well, I wasn't ready for that other door to open, because when you walk inside of a housing unit, the initial impression's a little bit different. And it wasn't that I was afraid. It was just that it was different. I hadn't seen the inside of a jail. Seeing it on Locked Up is one thing. Being inside of a housing unit was something else. But here's the incredible thing that happened. And so I was really apprehensive about teaching in the jail environment. I still wasn't sure as we were walking around the jail, but I walked into the jail, walked into this housing unit, and I took, maybe like 3 or 4 steps. And then all of a sudden I heard Stacy, and I went, okay, they must be talking to somebody else. And then I heard Stacy, And then I like stopped and I, did the slow turn of the head, eyes wide open, like, there's nobody in here that knows me, and who could be calling my name? And then all of a sudden, this gentleman stood up. I didn't recognize him immediately, and then he told me who he was and where he was from. And the amazing thing about the story is that this gentleman was someone that I hadn't seen in almost 25 to 30 years and recognized me within a couple of steps of walking into this housing unit. And at that moment, I was like, whoa. And then I walked away from that experience and shared my experience on Facebook with my Facebook friends and family. And I said, should I take this as a sign? And they said, it's a sign. And then after that, I said, I'm committed. I'm in. Yeah. This is a sign. This is what God wants me to do.
Yeah, because here was somebody that you knew who was sitting on the other side.
Yeah.
And that was an immediate connection, because so often we think we are not connected, and we are.
Yes, definitely.
Christian, I guess you could always use good people to come in and help give the inmates a more positive role model.
Most definitely. One of the things we really try to do is any programs that we can offer the inmates while they're incarcerated, and then any groups that are willing to come in, or individuals that have a skill they want to teach or something that they feel could help the inmates. We're always happy to get volunteers to come in and help us.
And there is some training that goes with it.
Yes, they all have to do, a background check just to make sure everybody coming in the jail that there's not a security risk. But once they complete that, then there's a training, an orientation, just to get them comfortable working inside a facility, and also to know all the policies and procedures required when you do work inside a facility. But, we're so appreciative of people that are willing to make the effort and come in and help out.
All right. You were going to say?
Yeah, and one other thing I want to make sure that I point out before Ms. Kane gets off the line is one of the things that I say, and I have on the Socrates website, is give someone a chance, the same chance you would want someone to give you. And I really want to take this moment to publicly acknowledge Ms. Kane and her contributions in terms of getting me into the jail. She fought for me to get into the jail. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had these opportunities to connect with these inmates. So, a lot of times folks just need you to open that door just a little bit, and they don't have to do a lot. They just need to open the door and see what happens. And sometimes it starts just with the ability to listen. And she was willing to listen, to hear what I had to offer. And now we've forged a powerful relationship, and we're looking to do a lot more with the jail population in Arlington.
All right. And so it's not just opening the door, but being able to dance once you're in there.
Exactly.
Too, and holding the room. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about getting involved in Socrates. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back. We continue our chat with community activist and founder of Socrates, Stacey Young. He's also a professor. And we're talking about Socrates because it stands for Saving Our Communities at Risk through Educational Services. What kind of educational services do you offer? You just hinted on it briefly.
Mm-hmm. So we're starting to build in terms of our offering, but the first thing that we normally provide is a introduction to business overview. So it provides an overview of some of the business topics that I teach in my college classroom. So I don't require them to take tests or anything, and they can sit there, they can do a question and answer exchange so that I can expand on their knowledge. I also do a life skills management, which we're going to be using inspirational quotes to talk about life and types of things that individuals might experience throughout their lifetime, and how do you sort of navigate through that? How do you make the adjustments? And the other piece that we do is
navigation is sometimes the hardest thing.
It is,
because people are still waiting way too often for somebody to hand them something, not realizing that, as you did, the initiation has to come from you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's critical to to the message that I'm giving to the inmates, is that, you have to have accountability and responsibility for your own actions, but it starts with a choice. You have a choice, and then you make a decision, and then you take action. And you've got to be accountable for that. Nobody else owns that but you. So you've got to own that. And
bad decisions is what got them in there in the first place.
Exactly. But
so it's not just decisions, it's making the right decisions.
Making the right decisions, but also realizing that what's happened in the past is already done. You can't do anything to change that. We're at this moment right now, and what you do right now, starting today, can change the trajectory of your life from this moment forward. So those are the types of things that we teach. And then the other thing that we do is soft skills. So soft skills training. So we go through a process of, there's a couple of different modules. So there's thick skin. And some folks might think, thick skin, that's sort of an odd topic. Well, early in my career, someone said to me, you need to get some thick skin. I'm like, thick skin, what does that mean? Because they didn't expand upon it. Mm-hmm. And then so what I discussed with the inmates is that it's important to have thick skin, why it's important, the ability to not take everything personally and, just move on from it. Then from there, we go into a little bit about critical thinking, because that's very important, not only in making life decisions, but business decisions or anything else in your life. And then after we get through critical thinking, then we go into negotiation, because everybody should know how to negotiate. Mm-hmm. So we talk about the importance of negotiation skills. And then we also do communication. Communication skills are very important. And we talk about the importance of nonverbal communication as well as verbal communication and clarity of message. And typically where I end with the soft skills training right now is with time management, because that's an important component of doing anything successful in life. And then I'm looking to develop another module for the soft skills training, which will be planning. And then I think that'll be a nice rounded workshop for the inmates or any other population.
Very true. Folks, if you want to jump in here and learn a little bit more about Stacy's program, give us a call, 866-801-8255. Once again, that's 866-801-8255. There are so many communities that are underserved, waiting for someone like you to step into the slot. And people, even it seems like to me you could even be giving help to the leaders out there who need to understand how to go into a community and get started.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing anything that we do, because I believe that it's a community that develops the individuals. It's not just one individual that comes in and makes a difference. I am the beginning of a process to build a team to develop the community. So right now, my team is the Arlington County Detention Facility and Miss Kristen Kane, who allows me to come in. But now I'm starting to reach out to other organizations as well, like the Alexandria Detention Facility and some others. So it's all about working together collectively to achieve a common goal. And we're not in this for ourselves. We're in this to uplift everybody and to make sure that we all make it through the race.
Well, not only that, if you start truly within the community, then hopefully many of those young men and young women do not wind up within the detention facility in the first place.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really interesting, because with all the challenges that I've experienced, you would think with the services that I'm offering that some of the communities outside of the jail population would be opening their doors to allow me to come in, tell my story, assist these individuals long before they ever reach the detention facility. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. So that's been a point of frustration for me and for the organization. But you know what? I'm going to leverage whatever opportunities I have. The one thing that I've always said, and one of the reasons that we haven't had a lot of big fanfare and haven't been out on big donation drives as of yet, is that I've always said, if you build it, they will come. And so I'm building something. So over the last year, I've built the model, I've built the vision, I've built the material that's used, and now we're at the point that we're turning the corner, that we're positioned to grow, and we need supporters. So, out on Socrates' website at www.socrates.org, that's SOCARTES.org, there's opportunities to donate to the work that we're doing, the valuable work that we're doing out in the community.
Mm-hmm. And again, always wanting community support and willing to grow and go to people. That's part of your other, it's almost like a ministry, but that's definitely part of your growth process.
Yeah, and ministry or fellowship, because fellowship. Some folks get a little turned off when you talk about religion,
they sure do.
But it's still in that same vein.
Yeah.
So that's the wonderful thing about Socrates, is that it's not a service that everybody has to come to me or to where we are, because we don't have a space right now. I'm hoping that we're going to eventually be able to have a space. Again, I'm trying to do smart growth, so I'm not trying to spend a lot of money, trying to be, really penny wise about what I'm spending things on. But the real value of the organization is I can take the things that we have with very little setup. So it's me. I can just show up and deliver just me. It could be me and I can have some copies and I can hand out, or it could be me, some copies and a presentation. And it doesn't take that much. And all I need is a facility and a space and interested individuals, and we can go from there and we can build everything else.
Mm-hmm. And again, showing how to lead is what's so very important. Once again, we're talking with Professor and also community activist Stacey Young. He's also a poet, and he continues to write there. The one thing that's so important about your work also is the fact that you saw a need and you've answered it, and that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with identifying the need and the willingness to take action. Because I've seen the need around me. You know, I was an individual who struggled. I've seen individuals who struggle in my classroom. I see individuals in the community that struggle as well. But it all takes someone to say, you know what? I might not be able to make a huge difference, but I can make a difference. And it starts with taking that first step, and then you see what happens from there.
And one individual, just changing the life of one individual can be multiplied. That one individual then becomes somebody who can also change others. There's some other stuff you want to talk about, too.
Yeah, you know, so I really want to take this opportunity, since I'm on a national forum, to, you know, talk about, you know, some of the needs that we have. Because, I mean, we're doing some really innovative work working with the jail population. I really want to start reaching out to some other communities. So first, I'll say, you know, donations are key to be able to build on the things that we're doing. So we don't have office space right now. So if someone out in the Washington, D.C. metro area, specifically in Virginia, wanted to donate some office space for us, we need equipment, furniture. Printing services are key, because the material that's provided and that's used by Socrates is all developed by me, but there's a huge cost to print all the materials. So if there is a company out there that provides printing services, if they want to get in contact with me via the website and let me know if they're able to do some of the printing for us, that would be great. And then we're also looking, as we start to expand, because I'm filling out a lot of the regulatory or legal paperwork, it would be great to have an attorney or an accountant to provide some pro bono services to the organization. And I think those things would be really great. And then the other thing that just from a Socrates perspective, and we do this on a limited basis because our primary focus is to provide educational services in terms of the material that we're teaching, but occasionally we do inspirational speeches as well, so I can come out on a limited scale to support some of the local communities in terms of providing inspirational talks about overcoming challenges and dealing with fear.
And dealing with fear, it's time for people to take back their communities and make them safe for everyone.
Definitely.
Yeah, the fear factor can really freeze up everyone. As you have built a wonderful website, and that's one of the keys nowadays. And also you have a presence on Facebook, too.
Yeah, so thank you for acknowledging the website. The one thing that I believe is very important is that if you're going to have a professional organization, you need to have a professional storefront. And that online storefront represents Socrates and what we believe. And anybody that goes out and takes a look at the website, they can see what my vision is. So everything's clearly laid out. So you can find out about the board of directors. You can find about our strategy. You can find out about our history. There's a video out there for folks to watch where I spoke to
video,
folks.
by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, where I spoke to some at-risk students last year about overcoming challenges, hopefully to get them towards graduation. So there's a lot of wonderful information out there, and we'll continue to expand on that.
Yeah, and the importance also is that people can find out how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, and hopefully donate.
He's looking for handouts, folks, but the good kind.
Exactly.
And, it would be different if you were somebody who was just out there saying, let me do it. But you've already, by having Christian Kane on today, you've proven that what you're doing is making a difference. And that's what people look for is someone who is making a big difference. And you will continue to be motivated that way. Yeah,
I got to give back. I got it. The best way to summarize all this is sort of my motto for this is it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the collective we, and I'm trying to find the next me.
Yeah. You're laying the path down so that someone else can follow.
Exactly.
That's sometimes the hardest thing also. Just saying, okay, here's the path. Come on, let's move on up. But so often, again, it begins with not just the parents, but also with the children being involved. Yeah, you're not too young to be able to give back.
Nope, and it's very important. We've got to reach back, because if we don't reach back, we all fail.
Yeah. It is Stacey Young, a professor. And what school?
I teach at Northern Virginia Community College.
There
I'm
you
an
go.
adjunct professor there.
Adjunct professor there. He's got a book out, too, called It's a Crazy World. Joining the fight to make a difference in the lives those less fortunate. Learn more by visiting Socrates, and that's Socrates. The Socrates stands for Saving Our Communities at Risk Through Educational Services. Well, welcome back. Right, and now we're going to continue with Stacey Young. He is an activist and very much involved with his new organization called Socrates, Saving Our Communities at Risk Through Educational Services. And later on, we're going to be talking with author, speaker, finance, and career development pro Cedric Dukes, and also with psychotherapist and relationship expert Dr. Carl Alasko. But we continue to talk with Stacey. In case any of you missed the first hour, Stacey, tell them about your new organization that you have formed called Socrates.
Yeah, so my new organization is Socrates. It's Saving Our Communities at Risk Through Educational Services. The website is www.socrates.org. And the goal of our organization is to go into communities, find those folks that might be challenged or may not have been able to connect with the educational process or just want to learn a little bit more, because not everybody wants to go to college. So what we provide is life skills training in terms of how do I navigate life? How do I make some of the adjustments? We provide soft skills trainings, whether it's critical thinking, time management, communication, or introduction to business overview in terms of giving folks a broad understanding of business topics that they might not otherwise get unless they go into a college environment, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very, very true. Now, there's something else you wanted to talk about this time, too.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually working on trying to create a national tour, because one of the things that actually came out of my last appearance on here and some of the work that I'm doing on the internet, one of my other jobs that I have of many.
Another hat.
Exactly.
He wears many hats, folks.
Exactly. So I'm a blogger. So on my website at www.slyoung.com, I write about life and business. So whatever I feel like writing about at that time, in addition to adding on to my inspirational quotes so that you can access from my front page, but you can also access the quotes, which I post some periodically on my website, probably every about 10 to 15 days or more if I get inspired. And that's on Facebook at www.facebook.com/itsacrazyworld. Learn from it. And that's all one word. So what I'm working on right now is I'm trying to create a national speaking tour, and I'm looking for corporate sponsors or donors who can support the cause. Because one thing that's happened since my appearance here and the other work that I'm doing is that I've had individuals across the country contact me and ask me to come speak to their students. But unfortunately, some of these organizations don't have the funds to cover the cost for me to travel there and to speak. So I am working on creating, again, a national speaking tour. So if anybody's interested from a corporate perspective or individual donors in supporting my ability to go out and travel to some of these folks, as well as support a lot of the costs that I'm fronting myself to build the organization, because a lot of the things related to Socrates, I'm covering the cost for that as well. So, they can make a donation on my website at www.slyoung.com.
Right. And that's, again, that's the reason why I was glad to have you back on, because you said after you had been on once before where you read a little poetry and just generally talked about people being involved more with their communities on a one-on-one basis or through organizations, you began to get a good response. And I said, let's have you back on. Let's talk about what you need, because you never know who's listening out there. And you do have a lot of good work that you have done, and a lot more that will be shared and done for others, because it's so important for people to make a difference right now. And you're also have made a real point of working within the prison population. That's really where you have really kicked off, and giving them an example of what can be done, because way too many of people who are in prison will get out and turn around and go right back in, and we must do something to correct the recidivism that goes on out there.
Yeah, exactly. And what I found is being vulnerable, and it's what I've done in a lot of my books. It allows me to be very vulnerable about things that I think other folks are going through. So, if we just talk about that really quickly. So It's a Crazy World, learn from it. that series was created because I was going through my own depression and I didn't want to go to a doctor and talk to somebody about my challenges. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It was just something that I chose not to do. So I wrote these inspirational
Well, so many
quotes.
people choose not to go.
Exactly.
But do nothing about it.
Exactly.
And that's just it. You did something about it.
Exactly. And mental health is not a negative thing. I mean, we all go through something at some time. So what I did as I was coming out of my mental health challenge or issues is that I started writing. And so I wrote the first book, part one. So it's a crazy word. Learn from it. Part one, taking care of me. If you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of anyone else. Then it's part two, moving forward. So once I said, okay, I got this one done. Now, what are the things that I need to move forward? So I wrote the quotes in part two. And then there's part three, keeping it going. So once I've taken care of me, I'm moving forward. I've got to be ready to keep going because I don't want to go back to where I was in the beginning. And then in part four, at that point, then it's about the journey continues because I want to continue to move forward at that point. So those are some of the main books. But the other two books that I have real quick is the book that's about my educational journey and story, which is called Above Expectations. Mm-hmm. My story, an unlikely journey from almost failing high school to becoming a college professor, which I'm very, very open about everything
Mm-hmm.
that happened during that time period. And then the other book that I have that's out right now is Bullies, They're in Your Office Too, Could You Be One?, which talks about a bunch of the bullies that I experienced over my professional career and guidance. It's really a manual that'll provide you some insight into the type of issues that can happen in organizations, as well as the lessons learned, and allows you to do some critical thinking as well. And then my book that's coming up this spring, I'm working on a book on ethics. So talking about some of the business ethic challenges that I experienced during my time working in corporations.
And it's so very important. We've got a call from Freddie in North Carolina. Go ahead, Freddie.
See you today.
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm a truck driver, but I have some friends that are trying to transition from I guess the prison to back into society, and you're always twiddling your thumbs about how you can help them. And I was wondering about your program to help them, whether it be getting into truck driving or just getting a job, because that's the difference right there. That, like you said, that if they can do that, then they won't fall back, so to speak. And also, I wanted to get some information about your community learning, because I was wanting to help my mom with her business and get some education as well to keep everybody progressing on the positive side of life.
Okay, so in terms of talking about what we do in the jail there, what we do is we provide folks with the initial framework. So what I'm working on is rechanging and adjusting their thinking about how do they approach life, because it's easier to just say, you know what, I've had all these problems in the past, it's not going to get any better and I'm not going to do anything. So what I'm trying to do through my actions and my words is to inspire them to say, you know what, I need to take ownership of my life and start taking positive steps and moving in the right direction. So I'm helping them to think about things differently. Now, the other piece that you had mentioned was in reference to how I can assist probably in your community there. Unfortunately, right now, Socrates is just local to the Virginia area and maybe, somewhere in the D.C. and Maryland area. But if you reach out to me on my website, if there's some of my material that I've created that might be able to assist you, I'm more than willing to share it with you.
Okay, Freddie?
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too. Listen, I got to kick you to the curb.
All right.
Many thanks again to Stacey Young. You can find out more by visiting his website, Socrates, and that's SOCARTES.org. That's Socrates.org, and the Socrates stands for Saving Our Communities at Risk Through Educational Services. And also,
my other website, my personal branded website at www.slyoung.com.
All right. slyoung.com and Socrates.org.
Donate, folks, please.
Yes. Stacey waits to hear from you.
Exactly.
Thank you. It's always good seeing you.
Always great to see you too, Maggie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and continued success. And folks, get out there and help support him.